a lyric that soared through the hearts of millions. But when most people hear it, they think of Celine Dion. What many forget, or never even knew, is that the very first voice to carry those words with trembling vulnerability and thunderous strength was Jennifer Rush. She wasn't just the woman behind The Power of Love, she was the power, a power born not from flash or fame, but from raw artistry, from a voice that could whisper like falling snow and then crash like a breaking wave all in a single phrase. A voice that didn't just sing love, it pleaded for it, burned for it. And yet, Jennifer Rush was a ghost in her own spotlight. Praised in Europe, misunderstood in America, celebrated in sound but not always seen, her biggest hit covered by others, her face forgotten, her soul overlooked. But who was she really? What happened to the woman whose voice could break your heart and hold it together all at once? Why did she vanish from the spotlight after reaching its peak? And why is it only now that we're beginning to realize just how much we lost when we let her name slip into the shadows? This is the story of a woman who never chased fame. She chased truth. And in doing so, she carved out one of the most misunderstood legacies in modern music history. If you love uncovering the real stories behind the voices that shaped music history, hit that subscribe button and join us here on RetroWaves, where legends live on. Before she was Jennifer Rush, she was Heidi Stern, born on September 28, 1960, in the bustling city of Queens, New York. But her roots were far more musical than most children her age could ever dream of. Her father, Maurice Stern, was an acclaimed operatic tenor and voice teacher. Her home was filled with music, but not the kind you danced to, the kind that echoed from concert halls and whispered through the pages of worn-out sheet music. Young Heidi grew up surrounded by music that wasn't meant to entertain. It was meant to move you. Opera, classical, soaring vocals. This wasn't the top 40. It was the kind of sound that taught her discipline, tone, and emotional command from the inside out. Her parents divorced when she was still young. The separation fractured her foundation. Her mother moved with the children to Germany, where Heidi would begin to develop a unique cultural identity. Part American, part European, she was always straddling worlds. That duality would later seep into her artistry, a blend of theatrical depth and pop accessibility, wrapped in emotional sincerity. Heidi wasn't like other girls in her classes. She was quiet, introverted. Teachers noted her intensity. While her peers idolized pop stars, she idolized Judy Garland, Barbra Streisand, and Aretha Franklin, women who felt everything they sang. She didn't want to be cute. She wanted to be timeless. By the time she was a teenager, she was already studying voice more seriously, not in pursuit of fame, but as a way to ground herself. Music wasn't a performance to her. It was a lifeline, a form of self-possession. Living between the United States and Europe gave her a sense of being everywhere and nowhere at once. She wasn't deeply rooted in the American pop scene, nor was she fully part of Germany's music world either. Not yet. But she kept singing, she kept writing, and she started to create a vocal identity that was uniquely hers, rich, haunting, powerful, but always just a little bit aching. It's hard to say if Jennifer Rush was ever made for the mainstream, but one thing was clear. She was born for music, and soon the world would hear the voice that had quietly been building behind closed doors. By the late 1970s, Heidi Stern had become something more than a girl with a powerful voice. She was an artist searching for a place in a world that didn't know where to fit her. Her vocal strength was undeniable, but her sound, dramatic, emotional, cinematic, didn't quite line up with the industry's commercial formulas. Her early career felt like being caught between two tides. In 1984, Jennifer Rush recorded a song that would change her life, and, ironically, begin to eclipse it. It was called The Power of Love.
'Cause I am your lady.
A sprawling, cinematic ballad about the kind of love that consumes you, not gently, but completely. A love that doesn't knock, it crashes in. And Jennifer sang it like she had lived it. The moment her voice hit that first chorus, you could feel the earth shift. It wasn't just vocal control, it was soul exposure. She recorded it in a studio in Frankfurt, standing in the dark, eyes closed, channeling every heartbreak she had ever carried into that one performance. When the single was released, it didn't take long for Europe to take notice. In 1985, it hit #1 in the UK, staying there for 5 straight weeks, becoming the biggest-selling single by a female solo artist in UK history at the time. In countries like Germany, South Africa, Norway, and Austria, the song became a staple, not just of the charts, but of weddings, funerals, and quiet, lonely nights. But in the United States, it stalled. American radio programmers didn't quite know what to do with it, or with her. And then, Celine Dion happened. A decade later, Celine's version of The Power of Love would become a massive global hit, especially in the US, and most listeners would assume it was hers from the beginning. Even today, search results and karaoke listings rarely mention Jennifer. Imagine writing the most soul-bearing song of your life, recording it in your rawest truth, watching it become a global anthem, and then quietly watching it slip through your fingers, your name forgotten, your voice erased from its origin story. Jennifer never spoke bitterly about Celine's version. She said she was flattered, but close friends and collaborators recall that it wounded her deeply, not out of jealousy, but because of what it symbolized. It wasn't just the loss of credit, it was the loss of identity. The Power of Love became a song everyone loved, but no one remembered who gave it life. And for an artist who had spent her whole career trying to be heard for who she truly was, it was a cruel twist. It was success, yes, but with a shadow that never quite left. The year was 1984, and in a modest recording studio in Frankfurt, Germany, the storm that had been quietly brewing inside Jennifer Rush finally found its thunder. The Power of Love wasn't just a song she was hired to sing, it was a collaboration. Jennifer co-wrote it with Gunther Mende, Candy DeRouge, and Mary Susan Applegate. The lyrics weren't just poetic, they were intimate. They spoke of surrender, strength, longing, and vulnerability. It was a love that held both comfort and risk, a paradox Jennifer understood deeply. She had spent her life fighting to be seen, as a woman, as an artist, as more than just a voice for hire. And now, here was a song that allowed her to say everything she had never been allowed to say in an industry more obsessed with commercial polish than emotional truth. The recording session was almost sacred. Jennifer stood alone in the booth, surrounded by soft lights and silence. The piano notes trickled in like a question, and when she opened her mouth to sing, there was no audience, no pressure, just raw release. Engineers later said the room went still, no movement, no breath, just her voice, rising and falling like it was tethered to something not of this world. Her vocal delivery wasn't about range or power, though she had both. It was about emotional storytelling. Each phrase bled, each crescendo carried the ache of a woman who had lived every word. By the time she reached the song's soaring final chorus, "'Cause I am your lady and you are my man," it felt like the culmination of her entire life's yearning.
'Cause I am your lady.
When the track was released in Europe, the response was immediate and staggering. Radio DJs wept while spinning it. Couples wrote letters saying it had saved their relationships. Critics scrambled to describe a voice that was both operatic and pop, fierce and fragile. In the UK, it exploded, topping the charts for 5 weeks, selling over 1 million copies. Jennifer had arrived, or so it seemed. But the paradox of success is that it rarely feels the way it looks from the outside. While The Power of Love made her a household name across Europe, it failed to chart in the US in any meaningful way. And Jennifer, born in Queens, raised with the hope of American stardom, watched as her biggest triumph was silenced in the place that had first given her a name. Still, in that song, Jennifer left something indelible, something eternal, her voice, her truth, her pain, captured in one of the greatest ballads of all time. It was a love song, but it was also a self-portrait. And even if the world didn't always give her the credit, the song remembered. In the mid-1980s, Jennifer Rush wasn't just a star in Europe, she was a phenomenon. Following the explosive success of The Power of Love, her debut album, also titled Jennifer Rush, went on to become a bestseller across the continent. It went platinum in Germany, gold in several other countries, and remained in heavy rotation on European radio for years. She was no longer just the girl with the big voice. She was the voice. In Germany, where she had quietly spent years paying her dues in relative obscurity, she became a household name. In Spain, Italy, Norway, Switzerland, and South Africa, her music crossed language barriers. Jennifer's presence wasn't based on tabloid appearances or celebrity gossip. It was her voice that led the way, powerful, unapologetic, soulful. She began touring across Europe, playing sold-out theaters and arenas where the audience would often sing every word louder than the band. Fans didn't just love her music, they felt seen by it. Her songs, especially ballads like Ring of Ice, If You're Ever Gonna Lose My Love, and Destiny, resonated with people going through heartbreak, healing, or the quiet search for meaning. But what made Jennifer's legacy unique was that she stood apart from the pop industry's expectations of women at the time. She wasn't groomed into a Barbie doll image. She didn't flirt with the cameras or chase shock value. She wore her emotional gravity like armor, and it earned her a loyal following that extended beyond trends. Musically, she paved the way for a generation of powerhouse vocalists: Celine Dion, Lara Fabian, Sarah Brightman. All would carry echoes of Jennifer's signature intensity, that rare blend of vocal strength and emotional intimacy. And even though the industry didn't always speak her name, singers knew. Jennifer Rush was the blueprint for what a ballad could be, not just technically challenging, but soul-bearing. Her songs lived in that beautiful space between classical grandeur and pop accessibility. She made drama beautiful. She made heartbreak elegant. And though she never became a pop culture icon in the traditional sense, her music endured where it mattered most, in people's lives, in their first dances, their breakups, their road trips, and their lonely nights. Jennifer Rush wasn't chasing fame. She was offering something far more lasting: emotion, honesty, power. And to this day, that voice still echoes, a reminder that sometimes the most unforgettable legacies are the ones whispered, not shouted. As the spotlight began to fade, Jennifer Rush quietly stepped away from the center of the stage. She never made a grand announcement. There were no headlines, no farewell tours, no dramatic parting shots. She simply receded. While the world moved on to new pop idols, she retreated into a life of privacy, far from the noise of celebrity. Jennifer moved to London for a time, then returned to the US, choosing to live in the shadows of her own legacy. She became a mother. Her daughter, born in 1993, became the new center of her world. For an artist who had spent decades pouring her soul into love songs, motherhood brought a new kind of intimacy, one she didn't need to sing about to understand. Friends say she never lost her creative spirit. She continued to write, to reflect, to live with music inside her, but she no longer felt compelled to share it in the same way. Fame had given her a platform, but also pain, and in the quiet she found peace. In interviews, rare and careful, she would speak of her past with grace. No bitterness, no regret, just a soft melancholy, as if she knew she had given the world something beautiful. And that was enough. For fans, her absence left a void, but it also gave her mystique, the kind of artistic purity that couldn't be manufactured. Jennifer Rush was never a tabloid figure. She was a voice, a soul, a woman who gave everything to her music and then gracefully walked away when the song was done. Though Jennifer Rush never returned to the heights of her 1980s fame, her legacy deepened over time, not in the glare of trends, but in the enduring emotional resonance of her work. She released music sporadically over the years, including the albums Credo and Now Is the Hour, both of which reflected a mature, introspective artist who had nothing left to prove. They didn't top charts, but they spoke volumes. Listeners who found her later in life often remarked that her voice still carried the same haunting power, now weathered with wisdom and time. And among fellow musicians, her name remained sacred. A voice like Jennifer's didn't just disappear. It lingered in the walls of recording studios, in the training of young vocalists trying to match her depth, in the playlists of those who knew that real feeling never ages. Her story became one of quiet strength, of walking away when you've said what you came to say, of living a life defined not by fame, but by authenticity. Jennifer Rush's music, especially The Power of Love, continues to appear in films, television shows, and playlists across generations. Her original version has been rediscovered by newer fans searching for the true voice behind the song. And every time it plays, it carries with it the soul of a woman who never needed to be loud to be unforgettable. In the end, her legacy isn't just about a song, it's about a standard for passion, for artistry, for honesty, and that will never fade. What's your favorite Jennifer Rush song? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear the soundtrack of your memories. Was it Ring of Ice? If You're Ever Gonna Lose My Love? Or maybe, like so many of us, it was that breathtaking moment in The Power of Love when her voice soared and the world stood still. Here on RetroWaves, we honor the voices that shaped the soundtracks of our lives, the unsung heroes, the iconic ballads, and the stories waiting to be told. So if you're into timeless artists, powerful songs, and true stories from the golden eras of music, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss a beat. Because here, legends don't fade, they echo.